Today we are talking about a case so disturbing it remains one of the most infamous crimes in Australian history. This is the story of Katherine Knight, a woman whose temper terrified everyone around her long before she committed murder. And when she finally did, the crime scene shocked even the most experienced detectives. Fair warning, this case is extremely graphic. So who was Katherine Knight? Katherine Mary Knight was born in Tenterfield, New South Wales in 1955, and her childhood was anything but normal. According to reports, violence was very common in her household. Her father was known for his violent behaviour, and Katherine claimed she experienced violence throughout the entirety of her early life. As a child, she developed a fascination with knives. Friends and family later recalled that she often carried around weapons and was known for her explosive temper. And as she grew older, her behaviour became extremely unpredictable. She eventually got a job at a local abattoir or a slaughterhouse. Now remember this, because later on it will become quite clear that Katherine is very good at dismembering and slaughtering animals. Now Katherine had a long history of violence. Long before the murder that made headlines, Katherine had already established a frightening pattern. Now, she entered several relationships throughout her life, and many of her former partners describe her as controlling, jealous, and even violent. One of her former partners reported that after an argument, Katherine attacked him with a frying pan, while another claimed that she held a knife to his throat. Now, this incident is very disturbing that I'm about to say, but reportedly she slit the throat of a puppy as a warning to her partner at the time of what would happen to him if he left her. And police were called to numerous domestic disputes over the years involving Katherine. And of course, with the Australian justice system, despite these reports, she never remained in prison for long. Many people around her believed that her threats were genuine, but obviously they just hoped that she'd never actually act on them. Unfortunately, they were very wrong. In the 1990s, Katherine began a relationship with a man named John Price. John was well liked by friends and co-workers. He worked in the mining industry and was known as an easygoing, friendly person. At first, their relationship appeared normal, but old habits die hard and they quickly fell into the same pattern all of Katherine's previous relationships fell into. The couple argued frequently, Katherine became possessive and controlling, and eventually John ended the relationship. Unlike some of Katherine's previous partners, he genuinely wanted out of it. But Katherine refused to let go. After their breakup, Katherine's behaviour escalated dramatically. She repeatedly contacted John, stole items from his home, damaged his property, and at one point even sent him some threatening messages. John, understandably, became increasingly concerned for his safety. His friends, rightly so, encouraged him to stay away from her, and eventually he obtained a restraining order. However, despite his fears, he occasionally returned to the relationship. This on-again, off-again pattern continued for months. Looking back, many believe John truly underestimated just how dangerous Katherine could truly be. In February of 2000, tensions were at a breaking point. John told his co-workers that he was genuinely afraid of Katherine. On February 29, 2000, John spent the day with his co-workers before returning home. That evening, Katherine arrived at the house. That night, after John fell asleep, investigators determined that Katherine had attacked him while he was sleeping. He even woke up and attempted to escape. Evidence suggested that he ran through the house and out the front door. There were blood trails all throughout the house indicating a desperate struggle. But despite his efforts, he was unable to get away. Katherine stabbed him repeatedly. The attack was frenzied and brutal, and eventually John would die from blood loss. For most murder investigations, that's where the story would usually end. But in this case, the horror was only just beginning. One of the most disturbing parts of this case is, and this is really friggin' gross, she actually cut up part of his body, cooked it, put it onto plates on the table and set it out like it was a little dinner party, and put place cards with the names of his children in front of each of the plates, as if she was intending to serve it to them. Gross. And the thing is, John knew he was in danger. As Katherine's behaviour escalated, John became increasingly frightened. He obtained an apprehended violence order. in an effort to keep her away from him and his children. And the day before he was murdered, he repeatedly told co-workers and neighbours the exact same thing. He said that if he didn't show up for work the next day, Katherine was responsible. Imagine hearing that and then realising the next day he's not there. Looking back, it's easy to wonder whether more could have been done. Could police have intervened sooner? Could stronger domestic violence protection have saved John? Or was Katherine Knight already beyond the point where she could have been stopped? Many detectives who made it to the scene and seen what they've seen have said that they have never seen anything like it before or again after that. When police arrived on the scene, inside they found John's body. And detectives found evidence that Katherine used the skills that she learned while working at the slaughterhouse. And this crime scene is so infamous that it's currently used and still discussed in criminology courses to this day. Police quickly identified Katherine as the main suspect. She was found nearby and taken into custody. The evidence against her was overwhelming, to put it lightly. There were witnesses who knew about her threats, there was a long documented history of violence, and the forensic evidence left little room for doubt. The investigation moved very quickly. Unlike many murder cases, there was never any mystery about who committed this crime. The main question became what to do with her. How would the legal system deal with somebody this heinous and violent? Katherine's defense team initially thought about arguing diminished responsibility because of her mental state. She was extensively evaluated by psychiatrists, and experts discussed her history of violence, threats, trauma, and psychological issues. Ultimately, Katherine pleaded guilty to murder. This meant a lengthy trial was avoided. However, the court still heard extensive details about her history and the crime itself. The judge described the murder as unprecedented in its brutality. In November of 2001, Katherine was sentenced to life imprisonment. But this wasn't an ordinary life sentence. She became the first woman in Australian history to receive life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The court rightfully determined that she should never be released from prison. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm sure a lot of people are, because the judge concluded that she posed an ongoing danger to society. And more than 2 decades later, she remains in prison. Good. Let's talk about why this case matters. The case of Katherine Knight is often talked about for its shocking details, but many experts point to something else. Warning signs existed for years. There were repeated incidents of violence, numerous threats, multiple victims, and a long history of abusive behaviour. Many people view this case as an example of how escalating domestic violence can be overlooked until a tragedy occurs. Even among Australia's most notorious murder cases, Katherine Knight stands apart. Not because the investigation was complicated, not because the murderer was difficult to identify, but because of the sheer brutality of what happened. And it's a case that continues to shock people more than 20 years later. When I told my partner that I was making a video about this, as soon as I said her name, he goes, "Oh yeah, I know about her," and he told me a whole story about how they listened to a podcast about it, and it's just been, I think it's been on people's minds for more than 20 years now. It's a crazy, crazy case. Let me know what you think about this case, and if you'd like to hear more Australian true crime stories, let me know in the comments below. And if you like mysteries, scary stories, and true crime, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye!